everybody, it's Texas Stroker here, Lance's Performance Shop, Lone Star, Mopars.com. You may not realize it, this is a special video. First video of 2024, that's right. Here we are, had the day off from work today, got to go back tomorrow. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to run out here and have some fun. So I'm wanting to get this thing introduced because I am looking very, very forward to using it. Of course, since I don't do clickbait, title probably already spoils this, but I will ask you this one question to start the year. In terms of sales video type things, again, I've never seen the appeal there outside of like, oh, hey, this guy's used all that stuff that's on sale, which then you're providing an actual service for people. Do you want to see more of that? I've considered doing it. Those videos, I rarely do them. They always seem to do very well. People even interact with them more. It's, again, kind of crazy versus a tool haul like this, but it's something I've noticed, and it's been year after year after year. So if you're interested in seeing that stuff, let me know. We can make it happen. But I don't want to waste any more time. I want to get right to this box. This is not something I bought, actually. It's something I wanted to buy. If Mike's watching this and he's like, oh, I thought that idiot was going to buy that from me. He told me he was going to get one. Well, I still might, but this was actually like my big Christmas gift, if you will. And this one came from my sister, and it's right here. We're going to start. Some of you might have seen KTC there, but right now you're going to have to wait because I actually do like these envelopes. Typically you have your invoice, any small bits might even be in here, but this will tell you what we're working with. Obviously this one came from DRPD. You can source this from DRPD. This was available briefly, sold out very fast, took a while to restock. I have not checked stock. It's probably going to go in and out quite a bit, particularly as people become aware of it. And it's not necessarily from KTC. This would be from their professional line of Nepros. That's right, the fancy stuff, over the top, ridiculous. Real quick, we're going to do a little time hunt here with Nepros. One of the first items we brought in, right there, that's a screwdriver. Striking cap at that. Mirror polished striking cap. You'll probably never see something like that. It's over the top. If you're new to my channel, if you're new to Nepros, that's what they are. KTC, form, function, value. You got all those boxes checked. Nepros, we're going to take that same quality and we're just going to go overkill. We're going to make the wood handle, but we're going to stain it. We're going to clear coat it. And we're going to polish the chrome to where it's all mirror, even the striking cap. If this is your first foray into Nepros tools, it is extreme over the top, right? Almost to the point. This will actually be tested when we get around to it. But it's something I don't know that I could bring myself to use, especially not the striking cap. Perhaps as a driver, but not as a striking cap. They also have plastic resin style handles, right? We got the little stubby here. Hopefully we'll have some more on that front in the not too distant future. Trying to see, I may have botched things and not grabbed everything I thought I grabbed. Or I don't know where I sat it. Let's see here. Alright, recovered everything. It was on the other fender of the duster over there. This right here was my first ever Nepros ratchet. It's actually in this box. Why, you ask? It has been retired. You'll see why here shortly. There, I guess the part number doesn't even matter, especially that B at the end, because you will not be able to replicate this short of like paying scalper prices. Nepros packaging, there's also another reason I'm doing this. You'll see why when we open up the plain box down there. It's sort of extravagant and over the top, and if you're thinking like, whoa, you know, is that blue? Yeah, this totally is. It's what they call the blue ion plating, and I have to tell you, this is a glorious ratchet. It is 90 tooth. It's amazing. I think you can tell it was used. I basically was using this only for stuff on the late model Challenger. That's when I decided to use this, get it utilized, everything along those lines. It's glorious. It's glorious to look at. It was glorious to use. The reason I retired it, there's only two ratchets that I own that I've retired. This one and a Koken. The Koken was sent out to me. It has like a clear view cover. It's not like that big of a deal. It's only like 36 tooth. I think it's just cool. And I don't want to use it and cloud up that cover. So that's retired, and this is retired because, quite frankly, if I were to ever damage that finish, I could not replace it. I could break a Stavilla in half. We could shear off the Matco. and you can buy that. You can get it replaced under warranty, you can get a new one, whatever. That, I knew it's gone. It's totally gone, which is a shame. My biggest regret with this is that I didn't get more in the blue ion plating. But that is there for a reason, and it's in part because this is here. This is the ratchet that technically officially retired the blue ion plated one, and it exists because this is an updated iteration. If you have not seen my video on this, I encourage you to check it out. It will walk you through all the particulars. This one makes much more sense. You'll have no idea that I have truly used it because this is mint condition, and that's because the spinner has never left outside of when this was unboxed and for video comparison purposes. So that's why that is in such good shape. But I assure you, this gets used a lot. The chrome, that's what you're typically worried about. You're like, oh, how's it going to hold up? It's held up very well. That said, this is a long-term coming refinement of this ratchet, I guess you would call it. It's making what they currently have even better. And the main way they did that, if you were here, this is like a tank. This is like a gold bar in my hand, not just aesthetically. But when we compare these, hopefully you can see the difference. It's a slimmer head. It's nothing super major. It's like, if I remember, it's like 30 to 26 millimeter. Again, I walk you through everything there. The big difference is the weight. You can see very similar, but there were also refinements to the gear set. I think they went from like 7 to 8 on the pawl. Still 90 tooth. It's a fantastic ratchet, and it wasn't that long ago that we actually made this video, right? You're thinking like, you dude, you know, I remember that video. It was like from the summertime or something. Probably was. Keep in mind, I usually have things delayed, but this is why this stays there. I love that. With this rubber ring, it seems really stupid. I do like certain ones are fly cut. The knurling's really good, or if they're like just a gear, they grip good. But this rubber ring is just fantastic. I highly recommend, if you have a Nepros ratchet or you're just jumping in, grab one of their spinners. I think you will like it. It's a 3/8 drive. Again, that's my personal bread and butter. This one is, like I said, it's sitting over there in the roll cart. That's how much use it sees. And it's typically competing with the Kokens, which this one right here, it's a long pattern. That's why I love it. Again, we won't spend too much time here, but again, it sees about equal use, I would say. Depends what I'm doing. And then right here is a KTC, which we brought in more recently than this guy, and it's just a super compact roto head. So I've had very good luck with this one so far. Again, this one you can see was used quite a bit. Thing is, I finally got the longer version of this, so I've kind of switched over to it. But all this was there for a reason. This was your precursor. Note even the foam, right? It's almost like a lot of people tell me in the comments, it's like the Tiffany box for men, if you will, right? But it's right here, and this is kind of under the radar. I think unless you're like super into Japanese tools or maybe follow Nepros, I don't even know that they've sent out the flyer about this. With the redesign of this ratchet right here, they sent like a flyer. If you're on their mailing list, right, you go and you download it, you can see all the changes and everything they've done. I don't know that I got that with this one, and that's because I think there's going to be like a complete line with this concept, and I don't think it's come to fruition yet. There's also toolboxes and tool chests. We're talking like a little 3-drawer Craftsman Rally box desktop thing. Foam trays. I'm not sure if they're featuring the new tools or if they're currently the old ones. Again, you can't see a good close-up of them. But what we're getting at is this, and you're thinking like, oh, what? What's the deal? That box is way cooler. I know, you're screaming. And I 100% will not argue that with a soul. The black box with the foam is killer. Absolutely glorious. When you pay that kind of money for a ratchet, that's sort of what you see it with Nepros, and you think, whoa, you know, it'd be cool if Koken did that. It'd be cool if Snap-on did that. It'd be cool if anyone did that, right? When you get to that price tier, I don't expect it, you know, like a Pittsburgh or something, but if you're spending 130, 126 bucks, you know, north of 100 even, it'd kind of be nice to have something cool to commemorate it, right? Even just if you use it for storage purposes or display purposes. This, you think, ugh, What has Nepros done? This is hideous, man. Well, part of this might be on me. I think this cardboard might have been more advanced than I realized, but in the quest of just checking this thing out, I kind of probably botched it. So we'll just roll with what I did. And like I said, I think it probably came out a little nicer. This thing is currently, again, $135. That's the MSRP. Maybe you can find it slightly cheaper. If you do, if you're like, oh, I found that for 120 more on, I didn't even have to look, check their shipping. If they're charging you $40 in freight or something stupid, you're going to come out on the losing end of that deal. Again, DRPD, you'll get your free freight there. Nepros, I don't think you'd pay anywhere near the prices that other scalper people are asking for these, but we're going to come in and we're going to throw this down. You're like, what is that? Well, this is Cork. It is sanded extremely fine. I have never felt sanded cork before, but if you haven't and you want to experience it, this is the place to do it, particularly this bottom side. Now, I've got my hand strategically positioned here, and you're thinking like, okay, hang on, get that down there. Lower. Get that screwdriver out of the way and lower this. Now turn that ratchet. What's the deal? You're like, oh, idiot, you paid $135 to get a satin finish, you and your German tools. Why? Is satin that much better? There's no way you can justify that, right? Well, that is kind of a change there. Like, this is just straight up in your face, mirror polished, Peterbilt on the interstate type of chrome. And this is, again, it kind of does look more like a very, very polished satin. That might be your first observation. Your next observation, you think, hey, that's sort of like chiseled, right? You might even call it sculpted. Again, right here, note where my index finger is, instead of kind of going around like this, note it's almost like I'm just going off, at a machined angle, right? So right here, you can see that's like a round head, and it's almost, again, sculpted. And you think, well, hey, what's the deal? Well, there's our switch. Seems about the same. Selector, again, recessed beautifully. Some people, if you're sleeping on Nepros and you want like justification to buy these, that selector switch is recessed very, very well. Now, I'm going to go ahead and ruin the fun here and just show you what is the Nepros neXT, next. I'm not exactly sure what vernacular. I guess it could go either way. But this would be their neXT. That just kind of sounds cooler than next. But takes the NE from the start of Nepros, and right, then XT for extreme. And you're thinking extreme, is it just because they changed the chrome and chiseled some edges? Well, what if I told you, think of racing, right? If you're limited to 440 cubic inches, which they'd never do because that's a Chrysler displacement, so they'd have to go down, dumb it down for Ford or Chevy. What do? Like, you're capped there, right? You got to go and you got to hog out the heads. You got to find all sorts of speed tricks, right? And then what do you do when you've maxed that out and you're trying to make up? They let the smaller displacements have forced induction. What do? You've done everything you can with a driveline. Well, you're trying to turn faster lap times or go down the track quicker. You reduce the amount of weight that you have to move from A to B. And how do you do that? Weight reduction, right? So then you come in and you speed holes. Right? Hog out the metal. Well, what if you're trying to reduce the weight of a ratchet? In this case, this ratchet, they hollowed out the handle a little bit more. That previous one maintained its balance, but if you look at the flyer, it's sort of from here down, in the blue ion plating. In this one, they increased up into this neck area, right? And so that's why this is, again, significantly lighter than the previous iteration. This blue ion being just like if you had a mirror finish, it just looks better because it's blue ion plated, right? So you're thinking like, yeah, I guess that does make sense. They kind of chiseled that. You could probably, shave a few ounces or grams or something, minute particle. But you couldn't really make a huge difference, right? There. You're thinking like, whoa, it's not, this is January, buddy, not April. What's the deal? Well, this is the neXT from Nepros. And I must tell you, it is glorious to look at, it is glorious to behold, and I hope that it's just as glorious to use. Now, this I do actually plan to use. I don't know that it'll see a ton of use. It kind of is going to depend. If I'm gloved, I don't think this is going to be a problem. If I have bare hands, I don't know if that's going to dig into me. Obviously, they've radiused and blended everything. There's not like there's sharp edges and I'm going to grip this and come out with bleeding palms or something, right? But I don't know how comfortable it's going to be in real world use, right? Obviously, here on the bench is one thing, but in real world use, bare hand, I don't know. Now, practically speaking, how could this possibly benefit anyone? Well, number one, maybe if you got like a medical condition and just like this is heavy and the lighter something is, the better, okay? That's probably a very, very small percentage of people, but it could be beneficial. Number two, and way more just practically thinking, a lanyard. Okay, I know that sounds really stupid, but think about it. If you, like, I don't know, maybe you go scale mini skyscrapers and clean windows, right? You want to go up there and you want to do it safely, and you don't want to drop anything you take with you because that's a liability and a hazard, and you'd have to go retrieve it, which is a pain in the butt. But similarly, you want to go up with as little weight as possible. So yes, it's very insignificant, but between adding a lanyard and the reduced weight, maybe there's practicality there. Again, beautiful ratchet. What would a downside to this be? There's no hole in it. You can't run a lanyard, right? Same thing, this Koken, you know, this great ratchet, fantastic backlash, but guess what? You can't run a lanyard. You'd have to drill your own hole. There are a few ratchets, like if you think of like the cheap roto heads, they typically have a hole in the handle at the end. Sometimes comfort grips have one, so it's not like this is just doing something that's never been done. But if you need a tether or a lanyard type of a deal, this would tie in. I don't know that they're even marketing that. I think this is more of just the pure, look what we can do, the aesthetic, the pure badassery of it, I guess you would quantify it as. But like I said, my biggest fear with this, aside from not being comfortable, is if I'm using this and I've got antices. We'll just keep it simple. Antices would even blend in with this, right? For the most part, unless you're using like a copper-based one. Is it going to go down in here? Because that would drive some of us, me included, crazy. You would have to come in and then intricately detail. You'd have to like stock Q-tips in your roll cart, so when you have a spare minute, you can swab out junk that gets down in there. I cannot answer that until I've used this. For all I know, it's going to shear off and it's never going to run down. It might always go down there. This might stay mint, this might stay mint, and these two, particularly the one closest to my, you know, palm of the finger, is going to basically just get saturated with crud. I don't know. That's my fear. If you use this ratchet and you get it dirty, guess what I do? I take a blue shop towel and I go like that, and it's back to mirror polished essentially. Might have to work the finer grease and stuff out, but it's mainly, I don't know, you could call this like a conversation piece. You could call it for collectors. Again, if you love Nepros and you're like, man, I've dropped that thing so many times and chipped the chrome, I feel terrible. Well, then this is a viable solution. If you're working on your back all the time in tight spaces, you probably could care less if you get grease and grime in this. If this is easier for you to hold and it doesn't hurt as bad when it falls on your cheekbone as you turn to the side to keep it from hitting you square in the mouth, that's a win too. I honestly think their intentions here were just to sculpt a ratchet, refine it to an extreme. This is almost like something an engineering intern would do at the company, and it would never see the light of day, right? You know, I'm sure there'd be like an internal prototype, but that's as far as it ever went. But here it is. It's in production. It's here. I think, again, bear with me here, I think I have seen in some of the very limited materials where they have sockets that kind of follow along with this workflow, right? So it's sculpted. Instead of being around it, it's just how much weight can we take off? And that could be the intention. Maybe it's like a, I don't know, you know, an aesthetic thing. Maybe it's just the feel. I'm not exactly sure, but if you look at this thing in detail, it's just glorious. Again, right there, just think of this as like chiseled. And again, if you're used to the mirror polished, it's going to be subtly different. Again, it's super, super fine, but this is almost like if Stavilla were to take just a satin finish on their ratchet and just polish it. And that's kind of where they come out. It's almost a higher luster on the internal areas of the handle. But I can tell you right now, in hand, this feels really good. It feels incredibly light. The articulation for the quick release is great. The switch is fine. They kind of got rid of that like textured area back there. I sort of always liked that. It looks like they did it here too, I guess, for a little weight reduction. This one, actually, I guess it sort of has it. It's not quite like the Koken. That must be where I'm thinking of that, but it's a minor deal here. But this is just amazing. If you get into a situation and you're bored, there is, let's see here, there's, I think the term would be topology, and there's probably something to do with your hand. In a quest to find information on this, and you're like, oh, surely they've released the flyer and they just didn't email it or something, you know. There's a guy on Garage Journal that has developed some ridiculously cool ratchets. Again, overkill, above and beyond. Like, one person wanted them and thought, well, maybe someone else would buy them. And he fished it out there. The response was good. People said they'd get it. And he apparently had a very similar concept to this. And he met with Nepros. He was basically you have to think of this as like an assembly line process. So he needed the gears, right? He needed a gear set. You could go and say, hey, Snap-on, you know, I want to buy your 72-tooth gear set. They're like, cool, $12. And you're like, no, I want to buy 500 of them. You know, negotiate a price or work something out or get it licensed, something, you know, backdoor political, legal stuff no one really cares about until it's an issue. And he actually met with Nepros, if I recall the story correctly, and I think they were impressed by it. They used some of his terms. Now, whether they had this in the works, the way Nepros is, you got to realize, to go from here to here, they spent like 5 years. And there's not much that changed there, right? It's slightly smaller, slightly different gear set, and essentially just better weight reduction. 5 years. There's a very good chance as soon as they began this, they began the next what from here type of a thing, right? It could also be a deal where they're like, oh, hey, you know, that guy, random idiot we met with, has a pretty good idea. We should try to do that. I don't know. I can't speculate on that. I might try to remember to link that article. I'll also have a link back to when we checked out this one for you. But it's very possible, seeing that Nepros went from this to this, with the main thing kind of being weight reduction, that was sort of on their mind. Like, hey, what is the one complaint people would have with this ratchet? And it would be like, well, it's really heavy. And so this is step one, and this is an extreme step two. And then people are like, okay, hey, that's cool. It looks awesome, but I think I'll settle for this. I have no idea. I'm just telling you what I know. And we will leave it at that. So $135, you could argue that it's not worth it. I think it is, and I say that based on my experience with this one and my experience here. Again, these are just over the top. This is 90 tooth. The backlash is really good. Maybe not quite Koken, but you're also, getting the 90 tooth. If chrome is your thing, which I know a lot of people, that's their big thing on wrenches or ratchets or even tools they purchase, I do not believe in everything I have brought in that you will find a better mirror polished chrome than you get from Nepros, just across the board. That's a general consensus one can make, and I don't think you can disprove it. There could be the oddball out there. There could be a guy on eBay that buys Snap-on ratchets and hand polishes them to the nth degree, re-chromes them. I don't know. I really don't care. I'm just telling you, for something you can go in and buy from a manufacturer or a distributor, I think this is probably the bee's knees in terms of, ooh, shiny for the chrome people, right? This is, again, you could put it in the same class as that blue ion plating. Like, oh wow, that's super cool, and man, it's too nice to use. It's just gonna have to sit there in the toolbox. Maybe I'll use it occasionally. Or this might be something where you're like, hey, this thing, oh jeez, that is way lighter, man. It's gonna be awesome. I'm going to use this thing. That's fully what I intend to do with it. Again, the big thing, whether I continue using it or discontinue use, will be what happens here, right? If I get anti-seize here, it's not a big deal. I just wipe it off. If I get anti-seize here, it's cumbersomely annoying to clean, right? And again, I'm typically the type of person If I'm out here and I'm taking an intake off and I get pulled away and I come out the next night and do it, as soon as the job is done, I clean my stuff up. At work, sometimes at the end of the day, I clean everything up and lock it up, right? But here at the house, there's not shift B, there's not the next shift, there's not graveyard, there's no other employee, it's me, okay? So if I'm in the middle of this and I want to leave this sitting on the fender, I do that. If I have this on the cowl of the truck, it stays on the cowl of the truck. I come in, I finish it, and then I clean. I do make a point to clean, but basically when jobs are done. If I'm using this and I'm like, yep, there's no way I can break that free and I have to go get a 1/2 inch long freaking breaker bar or something, this is deemed done, and I clean it up and it goes back in the box. That is my only concern, is if I'm using this, is it comfortable, and how difficult is it going to be to maintain the cleanliness, right? Because honestly, I've never had anything like this, and I don't know. It's such a smooth finish. I honestly think this ought to clean pretty good. I've got fairly large fingers here, but I think we can get by. Now the big thing here, I'm going to bust out a scale and we're going to fire it up, and hopefully the batteries are okay. And I want to get weights on this because, again, I do not have a flyer on that guy. I'll also try to pull up on my phone, I think somewhere I've seen a picture of this and it has like a sculpted socket, and I'll try to showcase you that. But right now, for their neXT or neXT line, it's pretty much this is the tool. And then they do have, again, little desktop chests, and then they have kind of, I don't know, probably like the equivalent to like a 26-inch Craftsman type of a setup from back in the day. Cabinets, chests, roll car, whatever you want to call that, that's available. There's slightly sculpted, you know, like aesthetically, but again, on the tools, I've never found like a zoom-in picture where I can be like, oh, hey, you know, that is definitely not a cylindrical socket. They've done some machine work there. I don't know. And again, there's just not much information right now, so it's something I'm going to follow very, very carefully because I love stuff like this. And with the sockets, you're going to have probably just a sculpted deal. Maybe it's even going to be targeted to like fit your hand better type of a thing. But maybe anti-roll will be incorporated. But, let's can it, get the scale out, and wrap this video up. And while I do that, be thinking about it. 135, is this something you buy? If you, especially for those of you that have never had Nepros, are you going to come in, are you going to get like the traditional, or are you just going to be like, hey, if I'm spending that kind of money and getting something exotic, I'm going all out, you know? Or is it a deal where you're like, yes, finally, you know, I can put my tethers and lanyards through that thing, it's going to be great, and it's lightweight, this is perfect for me. Again, not a lot of us on our back throughout the course of 6 to 8 hours of a work day, and not a lot of us up in the air on scaffolding, right? Some of us, yes, and that would be a huge point. I honestly, again, without knowing what their true thoughts were, I kind of look at this more of like a heavy, not as heavy. Haha, suck it, loser. You'll never complain about the weight here again. It sort of seems like that type of a progression. Again, that's total speculation on my thoughts, but let's go ahead, get the scale out, and see where this thing clocks in. Alright, so this is always difficult to dial in, but here we are. This is actually Nepros site. Alright, as you can see, it's 61% at 6:16 p.m., and this is truly 135. There you can see the way they do it. Again, take the NE from the start of Nepros, XT. Again, if they mean that's like extreme topography, extreme weight reduction, I don't know. Is it the next big thing? There's lots of things it could potentially be. It might be multiple. I just lack the insight right now to be able to tell you what the manufacturer was doing. It's right here, again, this is kind of your particulars, and sadly, like, I cannot click that, but gear action 490, I don't think we even have access to that. They're going to say 210 grams, 180 millimeters, so basically 7 inches. Yeah, it's pretty sweet, but this is what I want to show you right there. Can we get that to show up? Come on. Alright, so there's a good look. Do you see that socket right there? I know it's less than ideal, but do you see how it's just like pocketed? It's carved out. Every little corner that's not necessarily, so let's say that that's a 13 millimeter socket, right? So it's going to come down, fit your fastener. Going up to the neck of your 3/8 drive ratchet, every little bit that could be hogged out while maintaining a solid structure from the 13mm fastener end to the 3/8 neck is just sort of pocketed out. And again, that's going to be appalling to some people. It might be appalling to me depending on the price, but it's in very, very intriguing design right now. Before I know the price, I can be scared away. Right there is probably the best look I'm going to be able to give you. Does that intrigue you? Does that interest you? I think if you're on my channel, you're probably going to be like, oh yeah, that is pretty cool. Again, practicality wise, how many, you know, like milligrams? I don't know. I'm not a kitchen guy, right? It's certainly going to be lighter. For me, it's almost just, I think I could grab and turn that better. You always hear me talk about knurling on sockets. This is sort of like next level. Again, neXT, no pun intended, but like that's next level, something that you wouldn't think anyone would ever do. I'm not a huge fan of the Milwaukee sockets, the square, whatever they were thinking on that. I know people that worship it, and it's not just because they're Milwaukee people. They're like, oh, this is so great. You know, I can hold that better. It doesn't roll away, blah, blah. This would kind of be that for me, and this is extreme. This is like above and beyond anything within reason, and yet it's here, and that gets me very, very excited. Right there, I'm guessing that's kind of like a stress zone. That's what they're thinking. There's again a really good look at the socket. So again, think of that area there. Even on the fastener side, it's almost like they just come in and mill out the, flute it just ever so subtly. This is, again, how many people care, how many people are interested, I don't know, but to me, there's not been anything like this. This is almost like I'd have to have a lot of free time I don't have and come in and be like, yeah, I love that blue ion ratchet and the chrome one I got to replace, but they're just too heavy. What can I do to fix that? This is that type of a thing, and this is something you wouldn't think a manufacturer would do short of needing a demand, right? Like you'd almost think like titanium would come in before something this extreme, but yet here we are. And I am thrilled about it personally. Number one, yeah, it totally makes for a great video, but just take YouTube away, take the internet away, take video capabilities away. If I knew this thing existed, I'd be trying to get it to use it and see what I thought of it. So I've said that a million times. I'm true to what I am. Whether there's like old dudes that get together for dominoes or something that are the only ones I can talk to about it, if there's like one person on a forum somewhere, or if it was just me, this is something I would do with my money and my time. I'd be like, oh, that new ratchet in Japan's pretty cool. I would be here, and this is exactly what I would be doing. I'd get my scale out, and I'd be like, well, let's compare it to the blue ion one, So with that said, I'm going to clean this up, and that's exactly what we're going to do, because that is the obvious benefit there between these three iterations of Nepros ratchets. Alright, so here we go, just for kicks and giggles, because we've got the scale here. Let's turn that thing on, and kind of a baseline. We got an SK LP90, surprisingly light for what it is. We're going to call that 297, might actually be 300. Let's try to get more of it on there. 297, if it repeats, it must be true. That's a little bit longer of a ratchet. We're going to come in now and get this coking. It is a flex head. It is not quick release, but it's what I've got. And it's actually 309. That is a chonky little thing, I'm going to tell you right now. So 12 grams heavier than the SK. Let's come in now. This, honestly, I think it's just because of the balance, but this much longer coking seems lighter. And it's totally not. It's a little bit heavier than that, but just the extra length makes it seem lighter than our other short one. It's also the length is why I tend to use it more. Stavilla, we've got only with the comfort grip here, and it's quick release, so that's kind of tried to match it as close as I could. Just real quick stuff. 236, who'd have seen that coming, right? You're sitting there thinking like, oh, hey, again, 236, it repeated. The Hazette, I went ahead and grabbed the HPS. Why? It's a quick release, so we'll set that down. 254, so 18 grams heavier than the Stavilla. So 236 and 254, those are our lightest so far. Now, right now, we're going to go and we're going to grab this. A beautiful blue ion plated Nepros, which again is just absolutely glorious. Let's set it down. 288, really? Thought it might have been heavier than that. 288. Okay, now this is what matters. This is just kind of bonus stuff over here for you. 288 for our blue ion plated Nepros. This one right here. I kind of think I did this in the previous video, but I don't remember. So maybe I probably went with the manufacturer specs. It's significantly lighter than that. Again, I wish you were here. I would hand them both to you. Be like, oh yeah, that is way lighter. So 288. What are we here with the redesign? 243. That is 45 grams lighter than the OG Nepros, right? So 243. Let's check this out. This is again the neXT. Oh wow, 33 grams lighter than the one we just weighed. So we'll set it down this way. 210 once again. So 210 grams. I think we saw that in that PDF we just had pulled up. That is extremely light for a 3/8 drive ratchet. 210 once more right here. We'll go business side up. 243. 33 grams, and then again 243 to what was it, 287, something like that. So yeah, this thing is definitely not tipping the scales too badly, and it's just again, it's beautiful. I want to highlight this. This is why some of our German friends came out to play. Side by side. Now I've got my spinner off there. We can kind of do a better comparison. Again, at the bottom, you know, from this angle, you don't really know that, like, this one I'm holding has a sculpted handle, right? Obviously, the rubber ring's not there. Some people may miss that. That sort of is something that adds a little bit of a dexterous benefit to you. But right here, bottom, you've got the mirror polished chrome. Top, we've got our, I would call that a very high polished satin. If we come in here with the, let's just do the SK. It's honestly one of my favorite bare metal handles. You can see again, this is somewhere in between these two, right? It's not quite Nepros, but it's pretty dadgum good. This, though, is going to give you a better feel for it. I feel like the Hazette is a little bit different of a finish. Again, that's straight up satin with the Hazette. The thing that I think is the closest to that is sort of a Stavilla, honestly. If you take that and you were to just kind of shine them out, that's sort of where you'd be, you know. But good grief, it's crazy. Again, just a couple years ago, I was a guy that had Craftsman ratchets, like the raised panel ones that aren't really comfortable when you have to like bear down on them. And we got some really cool stuff now, and that always makes me happy. And like I said, everything is used but two ratchets, which again, the Coke and Clearview and that guy, mainly because I can't replace it. This one, until they like phase it out of production because everyone tells them they're crazy, or just, you know, change it even more, I'm using this thing. And like I said, first couple of jobs will probably, obviously if you're using this on like a virgin clean, you know, whatever you're doing at work, if you've got something that's like brand new components, brand new parts, brand new fasteners, this is great. At work I do run into that situation, but my only holdback is anti-seize. If you're coming in and you're doing this on repairs, if you're doing this on something that's been out in the field, you're going to get significantly dirtier, right? So, I don't know, man. This is just, for me, it's intriguing on multiple levels. I appreciate the extreme that they went to, and that's what the XT could be, is extreme, Nepros extreme. I don't really know. Again, I so wish that I had more company insights on this, right? Not like some guys like, oh yeah, let me tell you about that. I mean, like, what was the official, you know, description and logic from KTC Nepros when they said, we're going to make this, here's what we're going to do, this is why we're doing it. I'm sure at some point, the way things go for me, it might even be within a week of me recording this, there'll be something that comes out. But when it does, I might come in and update you. Maybe if there's sockets, I hope they're affordable. Like, I could see them charging. You got to think of all the extra steps to do this. I realize you're like, oh yeah, that's fractions the weight of that, it should cost. No, the machining that goes into something like this, all these subtle changes, like, that's significantly more time, and time is money, right? Even if it's a CNC machine, it's time is money. And I hope some way, even if it's just one socket, you know, if I have to come in and get a cliche 10 millimeter or something, I want to do it. I want to see it. I want to experience it. I want to have it on tap. Where I kind of think that design would be even more interesting is on a deep socket. I wish Nepros would sort of like middle ground it and just do semi-deeps, and then more people would have an excuse or reason to go buy these, you know. But currently, this is it. This is all that I know of. It's 3/8 drive. I don't know of quarter. I don't know of half. I don't know of extended length. I don't know of flex heads. This is all that I know of. What's right here in Cork in front of you. And man, like I said, I think a lot of you are going to fall into my mindset. Like, that's cool. I want it. But I think some of you might just as equally be, you know, yeah, that is pretty cool. It'd be neat to look at and maybe use in certain situations, but yeah, I'd rather spend the money here. I don't know. You tell me. Let me know your honest thoughts here. Again, this is something I'd love to pick it up on sale. I didn't know, and I still don't know. Is it limited edition? I have no idea. Is it going to be run for a few weeks and then they're going to stop manufacturing? I know none of that stuff. But I do know I'm interested to see how this is in real world usage. Because here on a scale, comparison wise, like, you can come in and it's great. But when you get out there and use it, like, is it going to like scrape my palm? Is it eventually, like, are we going to nick up these edges and it's going to start like chafing skin? Is it going to tear gloves? Is it going to get caught on something? Or is it just going to be super awesome? I don't know. I don't know, like, what testing Nepros did to, you know, like, oh yeah, that does get filthy, you know, we should throw in a cleaning cloth for people. I don't know any of that, and I so wish I did. But the main thing I want to know from you is, what do you think of this? If you're one of the probably very few people that knew of this and purchased it, are you using it? If not, why? And is it a deal where you used it and hated it, or you thought, you know what, it's like the screwdriver here, you can't bring it, it's too cool to use type of a thing? So, like I said, this one gets used all the time. You would never know because of the spinner. Right here, if you want to pair their spinner, which is surprisingly lightweight, with this, it is absolutely doable. Man, I wonder if they would make a neXT iteration of this guy. Like, imagine that chiseled down to where it barely, I'm talking like, just make that flush with a ratchet head and then just give me like the rubber ring or whatever, you know, they determined to do there, that just barely protrudes. That would be slick. But yeah, this spinner never leaves that ratchet. And, I love it. I absolutely love it. So yeah, that's probably about all I can tell you. Again, where you can help out is in two ways. One, obviously, if you've used this, what are your thoughts? How does it compare? Any issues? Does it get filthy? Does it surprisingly stay clean? Have you noticed, like, hey, you know, at the end of the day, my hands, you know, they're not quite as worn down, or they feel better? Maybe some of you have like arthritis type stuff and you're like, man, you know, that really does help. Or the flip side, if you don't own that and you haven't used it, what do you think of it? Is it something that you want to buy? Is it something where you say, hey, you know, I don't want that in 3/8, but they made it in quarter? I could see the EDC people like going bananas for something like this, right? Just minimalistic, lighter weight in your pocket. And like, I've gotten to a point where I've had so much stuff in my pocket, like I had to retire a pair of jeans over the Christmas break here, because like stuff, my knife would fall out, the little XT or XS pliers would fall out, like it tore a hole in the fabric of the pocket, and I had a hole in the denim, and so stuff would just casually just glide out and cascade to the floor. So lighter weight, always good in that essence. But It's not priced egregiously in comparison. It's not like they built that and it's $235. It's roughly the same price. So if you were in that market range, right, if you're like, hey, you know, I love that ratchet I got right here so much, I went and bought 3/8, you know, shallow, semi-deep, and deep sockets from them, and they're great. Would you buy, assuming the sockets are kind of comparable to what they're currently selling, would you buy the neXT line of sockets? Do you want to see an neXT line of screwdriver? Like, do you want to see that expanded? Do you think, hey, that's really the only place it's applicable? You know, feel free to leave your thoughts. I will try real quick here, last second, to pull this up for you. If we can get right back to this. Let's see here. I'm hoping there was a link. Well, there's totally not going to be one. To their neXT toolboxes. Again, I've tried really hard to find everything I could for you, and it's limited. It's very, very limited to what I've been able to do. So give me 1 second and I'll try to showcase that. Alright, so right here you can kind of see you've got this set, which is in a pretty mundane deal, but here you've got a set, and it's in a chest, like desktop setup here, that has been chiseled, is what I prefer to call it, sort of that neXT. And the problem I have is I'm never able to like discern and be like, oh yeah, there's those sockets. These look, it's kind of hard on the phone, but they look plain to me, right? Not this box, especially up there at the top, sort of has, you know, like different stuff. There are the dimensions, so again, think of this as like a desktop type of a deal. There's nothing else there for us to look at, but you see what I mean? Those look like regular sockets to me. It looks like we've got ratchets. Even the ratchets there are standard. They are not what we have in the Cork there. The pliers don't have anything cut out of them. That's a wood handle driver. I've always wanted to get one of their adjustable wrenches, in part because I've been intrigued. It's not the chrome. No, you should know better than that with me. It's because it has a round handle instead of square, and I thought, you know, that's probably way more comfortable. But, there's some wrenches there. I don't see any cutouts there. If you recall with me, the SKX frames, you might remember way back in the day now, I said, man, I wish they would like do more of this, you know, like more cutouts, more weight reduction. I've even brought it up with other lines. I would love to see, maybe in my case, like KTC wrenches, so it's a little more budget friendly, cut out with this same type of a set. This is, like, if you're a tool person, like, I don't know how you can't be excited about this, but like I said, you can see the neXT branding there, and this is, again, I think the chest in this case, if I get it up here, you can see like, okay, yeah, so they kind of exoskeletoned it and speed holes and lightened it up quite a bit, I bet. But the tools themselves are standard affair Nepros, right? It's basically 1/4, 3/8, and half this. They're standard wrenches, they're standard sockets. Yet in that little product listing for this ratchet, we saw a sculpted, again, I don't think the camera has done justice to this, but like if you look at this, like that is a slight step. It's almost like a bevel was cut, right? And it gives that really, really, I don't know if it's like the machinist side of me or something, and other people will hate this. I love it. Personally, I really, really do like this. Just even the finish out, you could take away this part, and like if you just gave me a ratchet like that, I'd be like, oh yeah, sculpted. I'd go to town, right? But as is, this is just, again, over the top. It's extreme. Like what they do with the blue ion plating, which I wish they'd bring back, even if it was temporary again, because I'd get way more of it. I love it. The screwdriver is extreme. It's over the top. This is over the top of the top, right? You didn't know they could go that extreme type of a deal. So I want to know your thoughts on it, and again, especially if you have used it, how is it performing for you? Do you find any issues versus your other Nepros ratchets? Is it your first Nepros? And again, the big unknown to me is like, does that thing collect grease and grime in those pockets? That's kind of what I'm thinking, like, ew. Yeah, that might be a deterrent for use. But aside from that, man, I am ecstatic. Again, this is kind of a deal people kept hounding me for, like, what do you want for Christmas? I'm like, oh, I'm fine. And then this was something I would have bought long ago, but it was out of stock, and I signed up for you can do that on DRPD if anything's ever out. You can email to be notified when it's in stock, and that's what I did. And then I was like, hey, this is available. And I was pretty sure my sister went and bought it immediately, but I found out for sure on Christmas, and that was the case. So again, super cool gift. This was my big hoopla gift, if you will, and I can't wait to use the thing. So ridiculously light, ridiculously awesome. It should perform like my OG and this one right here, the refined one. I would assume this has, since it was weight reduction, it would have the internals of this. I don't even know that, to be honest with you, but I'm assuming it is. It seems to follow the part number nomenclature to me deduce that from an end user standpoint. But again, I wish I could provide more like official information. It's all speculation on my end. I can just go off of that, what I think was a logical path, and that is stupid cool. So once more, I will link back. I might even link to this thing just in case you're like, ooh, I want to see that, virgin first time coming out of the box thing. I'll link back to this one, which is their revised iteration of the OG Ratchet there. And then, of course, I'll have a link to DRPD. I'll link to KTC Nepros, sorry. Again, I don't make jack off that. It's literally there for your convenience. And just for the heck of it, if you're curious about this stuff, I might link to the Garage Journal thing if I remember. So it really does suck for that guy if they did kind of shaft him. I don't know that they did. That's the thing. I can't feel super bad or like, ooh, they already had that in production, and they're just kind of interested to see what his logic was. I don't know. I have no idea there. But again, you would hope that a company wouldn't do that, but who knows, crazy things happen in the world. It's very possible this has been in production for almost as long as this one, and it's just refine, release. I don't know. But either way, this is super cool. What he came up with is super cool. I was actually going to buy one of those too, but they were sold out of 3/8, so we'll see. Again, I kind of hate jumping in on a quarter. If I could get 3/8 of something, it's just I'd use it more. So yeah, I'm thrilled. I love that ratchet. I love that ratchet. I love this ratchet and the spinner. There's a lot wrong in the world, but right now, man, like here in Ratchetland, everything is coming up aces. So with that said, again, your thoughts and opinions always appreciated, particularly if you have real world use with this. If you can think of anything I haven't mentioned, the weight reduction or tethers or lanyards could benefit, feel free to throw that down. But good Lord, just in terms of pure aesthetic eye candy, whether you think that's ridiculous or whether you think it's great, I think everyone has to agree, in sheer aesthetic eye candy value, these are some of the best ratchets one could hope for. So yeah, that's where I'll end it, man. It's getting a little cold over here. I might stand a little near to the space heater for a while, but you know the drill. LoneStarMopars.com is the website. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all three at Lone Star Mopars. Hopefully I can get on Instagram again. We've got a lot of videos to plug from like the last 8-9 months. I haven't been able to be on there. But if not, you can always find me here on YouTube. We got new videos every Wednesday and Saturday, 9 a.m. Texas time. If you jump your Charger across the creek, hit the Dixie horn, spin your Nepros NEXT ratchet with one of their possibly going to be released sockets. YouTube just might notify you of that fact. Again, Wednesday, Saturday, 9 a.m. Texas time. As always, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have yourself a fantastic week. Most importantly, I hope I catch you back here for more action from the shop, which I can only hope and dream will have a follow-up to that guy right there. And I mentioned in the video that we kind of botched the way that we opened this box. And right there, again, me being old school, just woo. Let's check it out. Well, if you slice right here, it would open up. You would get this nice silhouette where you can kind of see the ratchet in there. And then this flap would actually fold out, and you would have the beautiful ratchet exposed in that manner. So, yeah. Pick your poison. You can do it the right way, or you can just tear into it like I did. But super cool ratchet. And again, I was out here tonight taking care of some stuff, and I thought, I should probably fix that. So there you go.